Good morning and welcome to the Energy Perspectives Group webinar hosted by Nouveau, Monde, Graphite. This event will be recorded. During the presentation, all participants will be muted. If you have any questions you would like to ask the speaker, please type them into the chat feature. We will read and answer questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now here is Dan Steffens, who will introduce today's speaker.
Hey, welcome to everybody. I'm glad you guys took the time to sign up for today. So today's speaker is Eric Desagnier. He is the founder, president, and CEO of Nouveau Graphite, a Canadian mining company based in central Quebec. Before starting his career in the mining sector, Eric served as an infantry officer in the Canadian Armed Forces, where he specialized in leadership instruction, advanced negotiation training, and project management. He is a geologist with a specialization in geophysics. He holds a bachelor's degree in geology and a master's in geophysics from Laval University in Quebec City. As a project manager at Sanders Geophysics, a world-leading geophysical company, he managed several large-scale data acquisition and interpretation projects in the Middle East, Central and North Africa, and North America. Major clients included the British Geological Survey, Saudi Aramco, Shell, the Moroccan government, and BRGM, which is the French Geological Survey. He founded his company, Nouveau Monde Graphite, in 2012, and today the company is developing the largest known graphite deposit in North America. So we'll turn it over to Eric, and welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. I'm sorry first for this COVID. I would love to be in Texas, but you know, the good thing is there's good weather here too in July, so I'm in the hot weather. So let's get started. So Nouveau Monde Graphite. Let's flip this slide. There you go. So it's a company I've started in 2012. So it started from grassroots exploration. That was my background. That's what I studied at school. Graphite is super conductive, and that's easy to find with geophysics. So we found with airborne geophysics a huge deposit in 2015. And since 2015, we've invested over $50 million US to bring the project to the level where it is today, construction ready, and actually to be in full-scale production before the end of 2022. So very exciting time, and I'm pleased to explain to you this project. So obviously we're listed on the Canadian Exchange TSX Venture, so there will be forward-looking statements. We're also listed in the OTCQX. Symbol is NMGRF in the US. So as Dan mentioned, we are developing what is the largest graphite operation in the Western world. We'll explain to you why our business model is very well positioned to take advantage of the huge expected growth of the lithium-ion battery, mainly because we have an integrated business model. We are de-risked at this point. We have made pretty much all the long steps of proving the resource in 2015, do the preliminary economic assessment 2016, 2017, the pre-feasibility study, and since 2018, we work on the permitting, and we are in the final stretch of receiving our permit based on our feasibility study. And we are starting construction this fall. So it's quite exciting time for our project. We are developing what will be a carbon neutral product. So we are developing an all electric mine, and based on our hydroelectricity in Quebec, it will be a highly sustainable project, which is super important for our expected customer. Let's start with our share structure. So we have 261 million shares out. Share price is roughly 20 cents Canadian. We have 16 million Canadian in the bank, and the management insiders is around 50% of the company. Major institutions are backing us. The Pallinghurst Group, based in London. Caisse de dépôt and placement, it's a huge, over $300 billion fund, one of the largest pension fund in Canada and North America. and also Investissement Québec, which is the financial arm of the Quebec government. So as I said, we're developing a carbon neutral product. It's something we believe. We started this, this business model in 2017, where we revised all our project to make sure it was carbon neutral and using only hydroelectricity. So it's an all electric mining project based 2 hours north of Montreal. We produce flake graphite there, and then we transform those flake graphite into anode material for lithium-ion battery, just 2 hours northeast of Montreal. So it's two different projects to make sure that we have a vertically integrated project. And obviously our product goes into a lithium-ion battery that we use on our site and our mining equipment. So we are super happy to have a circular model to propose to our stakeholders. That is especially interesting when you're looking for grants and you're looking for governmental support, and also make sure that you get the premium that you can get with the customer for high ESG profile product. So the market. So we'll talk a little bit about the market opportunity, and then we will talk more about specifically of our project fundamentals. So the market overview, where the graphite goes. Today, the graphite is roughly 1.1 million ton per year market. About 2/3 is produced in China in flake, but as you'll see further, the transform capacity is 100% in China for lithium-ion battery material. But for flake production, is 67% is made out of China. And what are the biggest applications for natural graphite? Natural graphite biggest application is refractory bricks. We use about 100,000 ton in the US only for refractory bricks. Could be Vesuvius, RHI Magnesita, Resco, mainly in the steelmaking belt in the Pennsylvania, Michigan area, and Cleveland and Ohio area. I would say that's where the traditional graphite for refractories, that's where the market is since decades, since generations actually. And also there is a lot of different smaller application, but higher margins. So I like to split the market in three main segments: the refractory bricks, all the others, and the specialty graphite. So it could be foil for iPhones, it could be lubricants, dry lubricants, it could be expandable graphite, pencils even, and a lot of small niche application, especially for 5G heat dissipation. There's a lot more graphite used compared to a typical iPhone for heat dissipation. So there's tons of smaller application that we are currently selling into and qualifying our product. And then the big monster in the room that is constantly growing, it's the battery, lithium-ion battery market. It used to be 9% of the graphite market in 2014 when Mr. Musk announced his battery plant. And today it's 25% of the graphite market. And everyone expects by 2024 that it will become the biggest market. So above 50% of the graphite market. So that's the market you need to be in if you are developing a graphite operation today, and you need to develop a graphite operation that fits for that, the needs of those future customers. So obviously for the people that are unaware of it, it should be called a nickel graphite based on Mr. Musk's statement. There is about 1.2 kilogram of graphite per kilowatt hour of battery capacity. So if it is a 75 kilowatt hour battery capacity, is roughly 90 kilogram of graphite. If it's 100 kilowatt hour, like the Model X, it's about 120 kilogram of graphite. So it's very significant. The graphite goes in the anode, and all the lithium goes in the cathode, all the lithium compounds. So that is very significant in the battery. So when you look at all the projection from experts, I would say the most serious experts out there are Benchmark Minerals based in London, BMI. These guys are monitoring all the mega factory that is currently being built in the world. There used to be only one in Nevada, which is Tesla that with Panasonic that is currently producing. And now there is over 140 mega factory that are being built comparable to the one at Tesla today. So by 2024, all that demand growth will generate about 1.7 million ton more needed of graphite that you see in blue on that slide. So this is very significant. It is the largest raw material that goes into a lithium-ion battery by a significant margin. So this is, as I said, we are expecting to be in production by late 2022, 2023, right at the good time to tap in this growth into the market. And so all the experts are compiling all the projects that could be built in the world. And by 2023, there is an obvious deficit of graphite that will be increasing. If there's no more exploration, no more project put into production, by the time we'll be in production, there will be a deficit. Deficit means two things. Means the price will go up for the commodity, and also we need to fix it to make sure that the growth in EV keeps going. Otherwise, if we don't find all the raw materials, that could be problematic for the growth that everyone is expecting. And today, as I said earlier, as you see in the chemical processing, so you see there is a lot of steps before making the right product for the battery maker. It's not only mining, there's also processing steps that are super important. The US is not very good in the processing. Obviously, there's a bit of lithium in the Carolina area, a little bit of nickel, but graphite is 0% produced in the US. The only mine in North America is located close to us here in Quebec. It is near depletion. It's owned by Imerys Graphite and Carbon. But all the production of the refining is made in China. All the coated spherical graphite for lithium-ion batteries is made in China. But it's normal because the market for batteries was traditionally in Asia. It was Korea, Japan, and China who started the lithium-ion battery market. So now we need to establish this supply chain outside of Asia, and that's what we are doing. And we are very well positioned. There's only, as I said, one current producer of graphite in the Western world. It is Imerys. Imerys is a French conglomerate, about 3-4 billion euro market cap. They own this single asset for graphite, natural graphite, close to our project, and is near depletion. We have tons of professionals who came to work for us in the recent few years to start our own operations. And now we are the biggest, but one of the only project that could try to have a solution for the battery makers, that you see all the battery plants that are being built in the Western world. Europe is moving rapidly. US was kind of first mover with Tesla, but now they will need to build much more capacity to fill all the demand for all the battery makers that are going to this market. And what is super interesting also for our market, it's all the different government initiative. A lot of the Western world governments start to put some deadline to internal combustion engine, and they start to put massive incentives for those car maker and battery maker to develop the supply chain and build the lithium-ion battery market, actually. So this is super interesting for us. And what we see happening, without revealing any of our confidential discussion, you start to see in the recent few months, even weeks, a lot of agreements between car makers that for the first time of their life, they need to sell a car with the tank full. They used to sell an empty tank, and you guys in Texas were filling it with all the oil and gas business. But now, for the first time, those car makers need to fill it with strategic minerals, and you start to see the agreements. I would say when I started a company, all those companies had no procurement of raw material experts at all internally. But I would say in the last 12, maybe 18 months maximum for the most organized one. But in the last 12 months, you start to see a lot of professional in procurements. They come, they visit our project, they get their mind around the supply chain, and they are very aggressive. In the last 6 months, I would say if it wasn't about the COVID situation that slowed down the whole world, there will be a lot more agreement than what you see on that slide. It's only 3 in the last few weeks, but I can tell you the intensity of the discussions, mainly with the big guys that you see there, are very, very interesting. So time is playing for us. They announced to their customer the EV revolution. For Volkswagen, for instance, they announced many billion investment in the electrification of their fleet, but now they need to secure the raw material. So that's where we are. That's why we've developed this project in the last, I would say the last 8 years to get to the point we are where the market is ready and our project is ready to tap in this growth. So our resource, it starts with the resource. We have one of the largest mineral reserves for graphite in the Western world. As you see, 120 million tons. We have planned to mine 100,000 tons per year final concentrate for 26 years, but we have the ability and the capacity to double that production if needed at the right time when the market will be there. So our project, 2 hours north of Montreal, as I said, the Matawini project is mining the project and making a concentrate. That's a project we have made a 43-101 feasibility study. So it's north of $1 billion Canadian NPV, great project. CapEx is reasonable at $276 million Canadian, so about 220 US. And our OPEX is also very low. So it's a very low cost project with very high quality graphite, which is super important to get the highest purity after flotation to be able to tap in all the different market I was mentioning earlier. So great economics. And that's only for making a concentrate. It's not for making the value added. We'll talk later. Also, what is super important, we have started to produce flake graphite about, I would say 15 months ago, because graphite is not gold. It's not base metals. It is a minerals that need qualification with customers. So we have produced so far about 500 tons of graphite that we've started to sell with customers. We have agreements with customers, including Traxys for all the refractory markets. We have an offtake for 25,000 tons. And also we have a lot of direct sales with strategic people who are buying specialty graphite. So this is super important. I will never invest or look at a project in battery materials or industrial minerals that is not making a demonstration plan and making the hard work of qualifying the product, well advanced the commercial production. And that's what we have done. And it's the best investment we ever made. So now we're ready this fall to start construction with a qualified product and a book of sales for our flake. So our flake graphite. And then if you want it, you can sell directly the flakes in a lot of application. But if you want to tap in the lithium ion battery market, you need to transform and add value to that flake graphite and make what is called a coated spherical graphite. You need to take a flake, make a ball with it, and add a small coating around it. It's not a super complicated process. We have internally hired a lot of experts who have done that before in Asia and in Germany. So we know how to do it. It's just a matter of developing the scale and I would say the cost structure to be able to sell a lot of it, because the customer needs scale, sustainability, and low cost. That's something important when you compete with the Chinese market. So maybe some case study to explain, okay, the biggest player in this market today. I would say in the Western world, as I said, Imres was the only mine since '89 in North America, basically producing 20,000 tons a year, mainly for the refractory market and the specialty products. It was one of the most profitable mines in Quebec province. We have 24 mines and we can know the one that are highly profitable because the royalty paid to the government is proportional to profit. So Imerys were #1 in 2014 for the amount of the profitability. So it's a great margins when you master the market and you're the only one in the market like North America. Imerys were very successful in it, but they never developed really the anode material business. This is an Asian market, and the biggest company out there in Asia today is a company named BTR New Material Group. They were the first mover. They were the first to be able to, they have now 3 mines, and they just invested in the 4th mines in China, but also they have produced last year 60,000 tons of anode material. They're selling to Tesla, they're selling to all the biggest guy out there. So this is a great business model to follow in terms of vertical integration and in terms to go tap in and look for talents and people who have expertise. So what we're developing, we have a different purification technique that we've developed in the last 3 years. So we can purify directly the flakes for fuel cells, for instance, for a specialty application, on top of purifying it for the lithium anode material. So we are fully integrated and be able to tap in the good things that Imerys were doing in North America, but also what the good things that BTR is currently doing in Asia. So that's a business model that we are developing. And just as an example, so this is last year BTR New Material Group's financials that we've translated in US dollar from RMB and in English. Actually, it's only in Chinese language. So they had about 627 million of revenue with about 30% gross margin, so very healthy gross margin with a great profitability. But today it is on the Shanghai exchange, it is the value of it is $3 billion US dollar. And they sold 60,000 tons of anode material. So this is a great comparables of what we will build and the market we want to tap in, and the kind of hopefully valuation and business model that we can tap in the future. And why we can compete with company like BTR. So you see here in the cost profile, operating costs, the main cost for making anode material is electricity and raw materials. So this is the 2 main costs. Electricity in Quebec is about 3 cents US dollar, thanks to our hydroelectricity, and it's provided by Hydro-Quebec. So it is 3 cents per kilowatt hour, US, very, very low cost and sustainable, low carbon footprint. And the raw materials, as I said, our mining project is about an hour and a half drive from this location that we have selected for making the anode material. And this is actually a super low cost mine. We're about $400 US to produce 1 ton, is at par in terms of cost with the Chinese mines. So we are very confident that we can build a vertically integrated business model that is sustainable and low cost like nowhere else in the world. So we'll be ready for competing with the Chinese market. Another thing also, the third biggest part of the cost structure is the chemicals. You need to have access to chemicals and avoid the most possible the transport of chemicals. And we have the chance to be located just across the street from the biggest supplier of chlorine. So chlorine to purify graphite is a key element. So we have bought a huge land where we can build as much as 100,000 ton conversion capacity there. So we're looking forward making the economics of that project to add it to the economics of our mining and concentrator project that I've showed you before. So this is very, very exciting, and the economics of this project should go out around Christmas this year. We are advancing to the what we call front-end loading 2, 25% uncertainty on it. So both projects are timed to be late 2022, early 2023 in commercial scale production. So why invest in Nouveau Monde Graphite? I think it never been for Nouveau Monde Graphite a more exciting time than now, when you start construction and you you start to see the big institutions interested by your project, the large customers talking to us. I think there is a very near-term catalyst where we are currently qualifying our product with customers and in the commercial discussion with the biggest player out there that obviously need a lot of our product. And there's not much solution for them, especially a solution that is at par with the Chinese market in terms of cost, but providing a carbon neutral product in a very stable jurisdiction like Canada. And so, I mean, we have something very interesting to offer to them. We are expecting a profitability, very robust profit margins. We have developed a long-term project that can sustain a competition. And we have a very strong team of experienced people. We're about 50 employees now. I would say 3 experts come from the Asian market, from BTR actually. And a lot of people comes from Imris. A lot of people come from SGL Carbon in Germany. So we have made the effort to hire a proven technical team, proven management. So there it is. So I'm available for questions if you have any questions for me.
Okay, Eric, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back on. Everybody should be able to hear me now. First, I want to tell our listeners, if you want to ask a question, just go to the bottom of your screen and some little icons will come up. Click on the chat button, and inside the chat feature, you can type your questions. And what I'm going to do, I will read them to Eric and let him answer. So we don't want everybody on here talking, so everybody else is going to be muted. So I've got 2 questions that were emailed to me to get started while the other guys are typing in their questions. So first question that was emailed to me, it says, what are the next important catalysts that your company has coming up that is expected to drive shareholder value?
Yeah. Yes, I would say people that are probably your audience knows are experimented investors in mining, probably a lot in oil and gas, but also mining. So the big milestones that will be happening in the next few months are mainly receiving all our permits to build the commercial project. Now we have a demonstration plant. We have all the permits for it. We're operating a demonstration project. But next step is to receive our full permit. And that's usually a big milestone for a mining project, receiving all authorization to start construction. That will happen in September. So this is a great milestone. And also another huge milestone is we are currently qualifying our product with customers. I would say, and this part, we don't control everything, but when our product will be our anode material, because we have qualified our flake graphite with customer, but when we will qualify our anode material coming from our mine, that will be a game changer for us. That will be a big milestone. And we expect to have qualified our product early in Q1 next year. And that's where it will trigger a lot of commercial agreements. And that's where I would say the most value will go out. And then we'll probably move toward evaluation that is at par with our competition.
Okay, great. The other question is, why does your company expect to become a major player in the EV sector? What are the things that differentiate it compared to like Chinese and African mines?
Yeah. Africa is a new place on the block for graphite. There's a lot of graphite in the ground in Africa. The problem in Africa is it's infrastructure, it's logistics. You need a lot of water for flotation cells. You need a lot of electricity for all the grinding and all the transformation into anode materials. I would say the challenge of Africa that we don't have here is infrastructure and energy cost. So for us in Quebec, it's one of the few places in the world. I don't see any other place in the world other than China where you have large graphite deposit that you can mine economically and very efficiently, located close by to all infrastructure and all access to very low cost energy. skilled labor, universities, and people who can be high quality labor for this technological material we need to produce. So I would say our biggest edge is to be able to do a vertically integrated business model in a radius of, let's say, 100 kilometer. So this is super positive. And I would say even in China, they cannot do that. They cannot export the business model BDR. They will need to buy mines, and then you have all the logistic costs and the difficulties and not having your mining project close to your transformation project. And also our location in terms of logistics, in terms of, I would say, political stability. We are open to the European market as well, thanks to the St. Lawrence Seaway, thanks to our location. So we have a lot of very important attributes that will make this project lasting for a long time.
Yeah, I see that as being similar to like, you know, the oil shale plays in West Texas. I mean, we already had the infrastructure in place with the pipelines and roads and, you know, service companies and, you know, trained people were already existing.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, Dan, because last summer I drove all the way with the Model X with my family to Texas for visit. My daughter, for some reason, really wanted to visit Houston. So we're glad we went in other places too. Houston is great, but Galveston was nicer. So we drove from Galveston all the way to Louisiana at the end of our trip. So I realized the scale of this market, you know, the refinery market and the oil and gas market. Then I was driving for hours looking at those huge refineries. And I was, oh, that's the market that will slowly displace. This is how it need to look if we want to one day to make enough battery material for all those cars. We'll need to develop that. So that's what we need to develop. So that's how we selected a land in a big industrial complex near water. You need to have everything on your side because this market is becoming a little bit what is today the oil and gas market, very developed, very established, and then only the guys who can sustain a low-cost production at scale can be the winner, you know. So that's what we are developing, actually, based a lot on our understanding of mature market, like the Texas one in oil and gas.
Well, I think from now on with this, the one silver lining, I guess, from this COVID experience we've had is I think a lot of manufacturing companies are going to want to have their supplies coming from North American mines, not from Chinese mines. And anyway, I got okay, some questions are starting to come in, being typed in now. So the next question says, how much capital is required to get to cash flow positive? And I know just recently you announced a major funding milestone. So why don't you go over that?
Yeah, so I've showed you the capex for our project is about 276 million Canadian. So most probably we'll raise around 350 million just to have enough sustainable capital and also all the cash needed to get to the first year of production. So it's roughly 350 million Canadian that we need to raise. Not all this fall. We don't need to all that money to start construction, but that's the amount of money that we'll need to raise to get to the cash flow positive and get the money go to the profitability. So it will be hopefully better than 50-50 spread between debt and equity. So that's what we're working on with our offtake partners, Traxys, to provide the right kind of agreements that the bank needs to get us the high quality bank loan that we would wish to have. So we are in those kinds of negotiation these days. We have options for financing it all in equity with our friends at Palingers, Quebec government, Caisse de dépôt, but that's not the optimal capital structure, obviously, to not dilute shareholders. So we are looking at all alternatives at this point in time. And I would say in the next 12 months, we will trigger the right project financing structure. But at least we have the right partners to do it.
But you just got 20 million in. That's enough to get started on developing the mine?
So that's enough to get started to what we need to do this fall, which is preparing the ground and, you know, doing all the clear and grub and preparing the ground, preparing the concrete to have a huge 2021 construction year.
Okay. Okay. Next question is, do you see any potential substitutes for graphite in rechargeable batteries, especially for the EV market?
It's funny because, you know, this lithium-ion battery was invented in the 70s by actually Dr. Goodenough in Texas. And then it was commercialized by Sony early 90s. You remember the first Walkman? There was not pretty much change in the chemistry. It's always been graphite in the anode, lithium compound in the cathode. It was lithium cobalt oxide in the past. Now it's becoming like Tesla, more nickel, cobalt, aluminum type of cathode. So the cathode varies a lot, but the anode is always in graphite. There are a lot of other ways to do batteries that are developed since a long time, but none of them has reached any sort of commercialization. So now, finally, in the last 10 years, the lithium-ion battery market went from $1,000 per kilowatt hour, and companies like Tesla are now very close to $100 per kilowatt hour. So it was a tenfold reduction in cost structure, because no one is now expecting a big revolution, a big change in any of this technology. And now it's just about making the scale and the cost structure to compete with the IC car and the IC value proposition. And now they are getting there. So yes, there will probably be one day one of those things that are in the lab today that will maybe make it all the way to commercialization, but we don't see that happening in the next 15, 20 years. There is stuff like fuel cell, super interesting fuel cell, but there are challenges at fuel cell. It's making the infrastructure of hydrogen gas station everywhere. You know, that's a challenge. You need a lot of energy to produce hydrogen. It's not very energy efficient, the whole thing. If it's fuel cell wins, it's perfect. There's 10 times more graphite per kilowatt hour in fuel cell. There are other stuff like solid state batteries. Maybe will happen first in jets at NASA. So the thing is, in space, it's still lithium-ion batteries today. So when you'll start to see $1 million batteries in space that are different than lithium-ion battery, maybe now you can think it's maybe one day it will be in a car, but I think we have at least a generation of our mine life will be selling all the graphite and lithium-ion batteries for sure.
Yeah, I think it brings up the point that people just can't really comprehend the size of the vehicle market. You know, it's so gigantic. It's like when you drove across from Galveston into Louisiana, they can't comprehend the size of the chemical market. It's massive. And when new technology comes in to a massive market like that to replace something else, it's going to take time to build up to the scale that it's going to take to even make a dent in that market. Okay, I've got another question.
About Tesla since 2007.
Yeah, right.
Finally, after 13 years, we have a company.
Right. Just think, okay, here's another question. It says, can you name the two other countries, the nations that produce the 7% and 2% of global supply of
the
graphite?
one in my slides, actually, yeah. So 7% is Brazil. In Brazil, there's a big company named National de Graphite. They have 3 mines and they produce about 70,000 tons a year. And 2% is Canada. It's Imris mine here. They produce about 20,000 tons a year. So about 2% of 1 million tons per year market.
Okay. You know, here's a question that I have. It's just, you know, I think to kickstart the EV sales again, you need higher gasoline prices. Right now, you know, people are still buying a lot of pickups and SUVs and stuff because gasoline's cheap. But, you know, I think gasoline prices are going to be coming back as the lack of CapEx spending in the upstream oil and gas market is going to come back to haunt the world here shortly. And there's going to be we're going to go from a supply surplus to a supply shortage about 12 months from now, just because we're not spending any more expiration dollars this year. So,
yeah, I think oil and gas and the battery materials, it's just starting to be together, but it will be like that for decades, where there will be a gas car, IC car, and then you will start EV. Now it's about 2-3% market penetration. And we're talking of becoming 20, 25, maybe 30% market penetration after 2030. So the other 70% of a big, and that's very optimistic. So I mean, and that's enough to make all our project very profitable, and make the lack of battery materials that I was showing obvious. So I mean, before oil and gas won't be useful, there will be a long time.
Yeah, right. Hey, have you ever heard of Nano One Materials Corp out of Vancouver?
Yeah, great people. Is it Don Blondal?
Yeah, Dan Blondell. Yeah, he spoke at a couple of our luncheons. I bring that up because they've recently, their share price has gotten a lot of attention recently because they're to that stage where they're entering into marketing agreements that are going to start generating revenue. And the point I'm trying to make to our listeners today is that as you go through these milestones, and it sounds like you're just within the next year going to hit some of these milestones of getting really started on the mine itself, and then also qualifying your products. As that happens, there can be significant stair step up in the share price. So
Nano One is a very good comparables to one part of our business, which is the one in Bécancour. They have developed great technologies for cathode materials and great ways to build those cathode materials. And now they are in I don't know what they will do, licensing agreement or building themselves a big plan for transformation, but they don't own the mine. So we have the mine, and
right.
We're working as well on transforming that product into.
Yeah, I think people just sign agreements to be able to use their technology that makes a better product, better batteries or something like that. But they do have some agreements going on. I think they're working on something with Volkswagen here real soon. So
Volkswagen is everywhere, I can tell you.
Okay, I just got another question. It says, please describe the people that are on your board.
Yeah, obviously we have two gentlemen from Palinger's group. So we have Arne Frenzen, who's a fantastic partner from London, and Chris Shepard. Both are representing Palingers. We have Danielle Buron, who's the CFO of Domtar, a forestry, multi-billion-dollar forestry business here. Danielle is CFO for Domtar since 2007. He's a great independent director for us, representing the Quebec government. And then we have a lot of people. So I like to make a board that has a lot of the diversity. So we have a woman who's expert in, she's a metallurgist and lawyer, a patent lawyer, and she's overseeing this part of our business, make sure we are well protected in terms of IP. It's Nathalie Jaudoin. And we have also one representative of the local community, Marc, who's the businessman of the local community. So we have made a board that I'm really proud that represent all the different aspects of the business.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I got now. I just want to remind everybody, we have recorded this, and we're going to send out the recording in an email here late this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. It'll go to our total global membership. So it's going to be going to about 250, 300 people, and I'm sure some of them will share it with somebody. So this will get a lot of nice exposure for the company. Thank you all for attending, and that concludes our webinar.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Okay, thank you.